Welcome back, our fans. Palestine was the center of many ancient civilizations, including Canaanite civilization. The Canaanite civilization was the dominant civilization in Palestine in the Bronze Age. The Canaanites were a civilized people, living in cities and beginning to use metals. They had a complex social structure with kings and nobles ruling over the population. The Canaanites were known for their advanced agricultural practices, as they cultivated various crops such as wheat, barley, olives, and grapes. Trade played a crucial role in the Canaanite civilization, as they were situated at a crossroads between major trade routes. They established a flourishing maritime trade network, exchanging goods such as cedar wood, olive oil, wine, and pottery with other civilizations in the Mediterranean. Religion held a significant place in Canaanite society, with the Canaanites worshipping a pantheon of gods and goddesses. Their main deity was Baal, the god of storms and fertility, along with his consort Asherah. They believed that their gods controlled the forces of nature and offered sacrifices to secure their favor. The Canaanites were also influential in spreading their cultural practices, such as their alphabet, which would later evolve into the Phoenician and Hebrew scripts. They were skilled craftsmen, creating intricate jewelry, pottery, and textiles. Despite their advancements, the Canaanite civilization faced numerous challenges, including invasions by various empires such as the Egyptians, Assyrians, and Babylonians. These invasions led to periods of instability and eventually the decline of the Canaanite civilization. The Canaanite civilization left a lasting impact on the region, with some of their cultural and religious practices continuing to influence later civilizations, such as the Israelites. Their legacy can be seen in the biblical accounts of their civilization, as well as archaeological discoveries of Canaanite cities and artifacts. Phoenician civilization. The Phoenician civilization was the dominant civilization in Palestine in the Iron Age. The Phoenicians were a maritime people, and were known for shipbuilding and trade. They inhabited the coastal region of present-day Lebanon and parts of Syria, Palestine, and Cyprus. The Phoenicians were renowned for their seafaring skills and established a vast trading network across the Mediterranean Sea. One of the most significant contributions of the Phoenicians was their mastery of shipbuilding. They constructed sturdy and efficient vessels called galleys that revolutionized maritime trade in the ancient world. These ships were both propelled by oars and had sails, allowing Phoenician merchants to navigate long distances and carry large amounts of cargo. The Phoenicians were skilled traders and established colonies throughout the Mediterranean region. Their main export was purple dye, produced from the murex snail found along their coast. This dye was highly valued and became a symbol of luxury and status in the ancient world. The term Phoenicia itself is derived from the Greek word phoenix, meaning purple. In addition to purple dye, the Phoenicians traded various goods such as timber, metals, glassware, textiles, and spices. They developed a highly sophisticated system of trade, utilizing a standardized weight system and often using silver as a medium of exchange. The Phoenicians also played a crucial role in the spread of writing systems. They developed an alphabet, known as the Phoenician alphabet, consisting of 22 consonant symbols. This alphabet was simpler and more user-friendly compared to previous writing systems, paving the way for the development of alphabets used in many languages today, including the Greek and Latin alphabets. The Phoenicians were also active in cultural exchange, influencing and being influenced by other civilizations in the Mediterranean. They adopted elements from the ancient Egyptian and Mesopotamian cultures, while also spreading their own artistic and architectural styles, such as the use of intricate mosaics and the construction of grand temples and palaces. Despite their cultural and economic achievements, the Phoenicians faced numerous conquests and invasions throughout their history. They were dominated by various empires, including the Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, and finally the Romans. The conquest of Phoenicia by Alexander the Great in 332 BCE marked the end of Phoenician political independence. Hebrew civilization. The Hebrew civilization was the dominant civilization in Palestine in the Iron Age. The Hebrews were a pastoral people, and they were known for believing in one God. The Hebrew civilization emerged around the 12th century BCE in the region of Canaan, which is modern-day Palestine. They were a Semitic people who traced their ancestry back to Abraham, a figure regarded as the father of the Hebrews. The early Hebrews lived a pastoral lifestyle, raising livestock and living in tents, but eventually settled in various city-states. One significant Hebrew leader was Moses, who is believed to have led the Hebrews out of Egypt in the Exodus story, according to biblical accounts. One of the key aspects that set the Hebrews apart from other ancient civilizations was their belief in monotheism, the worship of one God. This monotheistic belief emerged and developed throughout their history, with the Hebrews considering Yahweh, often spelled Jehovah, as their sole God. This was a stark contrast to the polytheistic beliefs of neighboring societies, such as the Egyptians and Canaanites. The Hebrews' religious practices were centered around Yahweh, and they worshipped him in various ways, including sacrifices, prayers, and observance of religious festivals. They considered themselves as God's chosen people and believed in a covenant, a sacred agreement between Yahweh and the Hebrews. The Hebrews' religious beliefs were codified in the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, which consists of three main parts: the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, the Nevi'im, the prophets, and the Ketuvim, the writings. These texts served as a moral and legal guide, shaping the religious and social principles of Hebrew society. The Hebrews faced numerous challenges throughout their history, including invasions, internal conflicts, and periods of foreign rule. Notably, the Babylonians conquered the kingdom of Judah, leading to the destruction of the first temple in Jerusalem in 586 BCE. This event, known as the Babylonian exile, had a significant impact on Hebrew identity and religious practices. Assyrian civilization. The Assyrians conquered Palestine in the 8th century BC and established a large empire that stretched from Egypt to Iran. The Assyrian civilization was a powerful and influential empire that emerged in ancient Mesopotamia, in what is now modern-day Iraq. It reached its peak during the Neo-Assyrian period, which lasted from the late 10th century BC to the late 7th century BC. Under the leadership of powerful Assyrian kings, the empire expanded aggressively, conquering numerous lands and establishing control over a vast territory. One notable conquest took place in the 8th century BC when the Assyrians invaded and conquered Palestine, which included regions such as modern-day Israel and parts of Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. The conquest of Palestine was part of the wider Assyrian expansion into the Levant region. The Assyrians employed brutal military strategies and tactics, using advanced siege technology and a highly skilled army to conquer their enemies. The Assyrian army was ruthless, employing terror as a means of suppressing rebellion and subjugating conquered peoples. The Assyrians ruled over Palestine using a combination of military force, political manipulation, and administrative control. They stationed garrisons and military governors in strategic cities, ensuring the loyalty and obedience of the subject population. Local rulers and elites were often co-opted into the Assyrian administration, functioning as vassals under Assyrian authority. The Assyrians also engaged in a policy of forced deportations, known as the Assyrian deportation policy, which involved relocating conquered populations to different parts of the empire. This tactic aimed to weaken potential uprisings and rebellions by breaking up and scattering pockets of resistance. Assyrian kings would often replace deported populations with their own settlers, fostering a loyal population in conquered regions. Assyrian rule in Palestine was characterized by heavy taxation, forced labor, and the imposition of Assyrian cultural and religious practices on the local population. However, the Assyrians also brought economic development and stability to the region, improving infrastructures such as roads, irrigation systems, and trade networks. Despite their military might and vast empire, the Assyrians faced various challenges to their rule, especially internal power struggles and external threats from rival kingdoms. Ultimately, the Assyrian Empire fell in 612 BC due to a coalition of Babylonians, Medes, and Scythians who successfully invaded Babylonian civilization. The Babylonians conquered Palestine in the 6th century BC, establishing a large empire that stretched from Egypt to Iran. The Babylonian civilization was a prominent ancient Mesopotamian civilization that originated around 2000 BC in present-day Iraq. The civilization reached its pinnacle during the reign of King Hammurabi in the 18th century BC, who is well known for his code of laws, known as the Code of Hammurabi. In the 6th century BC, the Babylonians, under the rule of King Nebuchadnezzar II, expanded their empire significantly. Babylon, the capital city, became a major center of trade, culture, and intellectual pursuits. The empire stretched from the region of modern-day Egypt in the west to Iran in the east, with Palestine falling within its territorial conquest. The Babylonians' conquest of Palestine came in 586 BC when they captured Jerusalem and destroyed the First Temple, which led to the exile of the Israelites. This event is known as the Babylonian captivity or the Babylonian exile. The Babylonian Empire ruled over Palestine for several decades until it was eventually conquered by the Persians under Cyrus the Great in 539 BC. During their dominance in Palestine, the Babylonians had a significant impact on the region's culture, architecture, and infrastructure. They constructed grand buildings, including the famous Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The Babylonians also influenced art, literature, and science, contributing to the overall development of civilization in the region. However, the Babylonian Empire's dominance was relatively short-lived, as it eventually fell to the Persians, who established the Achaemenid Empire. Despite this, the legacy of the Babylonians, including their legal code and architectural marvels, continued to influence subsequent civilizations for centuries to come. Thanks for watching. Support us by likes and subscribes.